afternoon and welcome to Nigeria Now on Equal Television, where we keep you updated with some of the current happenings in the country. So please do well to drop in your comment, your views, as they are always, welcome as a feedback for us to know that we're doing great, as well as your own recommendation regarding some of these issues that we would love to discuss this afternoon. I am Seda Laishatasho. I'm doing the program alongside Rachel Tansi. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Seda.
All right, quite a number for us to discuss this afternoon. Just in case you missed the morning program, the dailies where we were looking at today being the World Cancer Day, and the fact that there is a number of awareness going on presently, some of the common cases or some of the common types of cancer that we have here in the part of the world, talking about here in Nigeria, and then what the government needs to do. We also saw the fact that the need for more specialists is really, really needed, where we're saying that instead of having one specialist to about maybe 500 or even 50 patients, we're seeing that one specialist to over 2,000 patients. And we know that what that means is that there's going to be so much of workload for the specialists, as well as not them, the patients not getting adequate care and all of that. So we hope that the government of Nigeria will actually take cognizance into all of these cases, and then as well do something. Let's have more centers, more specialists, and then the welfare of our specialists or even the doctors in general need to be taken care of. So just give you a little bit of what we actually discussed regarding the World Cancer Day. So we'll be going straight into our discussion for today, and we will start with the NLC, suspending their protest. We'll recall last week they gave a heads up to the telcos, as well as even to the Nigerian Communication Commission, that they will be going on a protest today if the federal government do not do something regarding the 50%, tariff hike that's for telecommunications. And we're saying that yesterday there was a meeting, and so the NLC have actually said that they are going to suspend for the meantime. And when I saw this, Rachel, I was more like, okay, I actually saw this coming, that the moment with, the way Jajero is always very vibrant when it comes to, we're going on a strike, we're going on a protest if these things are not being done. And we've seen that the federal government met, and then a 10-man committee has been set up, both from the side of the NLC and from the federal government, to look into maybe possibly a balance. And then in the next 2 weeks, we are hoping to hear what the feedback will be. I mean, when Nigerians already complaining, we already have so much of tariff. We can look at even that of electricity and then all of that, and then the telecoms is actually here again. So we're saying that for the meantime, NLC is actually on suspension regarding that. But then right now it's just to cross our finger, and then let's wait for the next 2 weeks to see what the outcome of this committee will be. Are we going to be seeing backward for regarding that, or going to see an increase? Already we will recall even the telcos are saying that even the 50% is too small regarding when you look at some of the expenses they spend, so many other things that actually the factors regarding the reason why they actually wanted even 100%, but the government slashed it to 50%. But NLC is still complaining about that. So let's see what the 10-man committee will do, whether the legal action taken by SERAP will actually help, or even that by Nigerian subscribers, or even the NLC. Maybe, just maybe, all of these voices that have been raised to actually complain, maybe to actually take effect, and then we'll see the government considering, reducing the tariff.
The question to the NLC is that why wasn't this the first step taken? Why the whole threat about the strike today and all of that? Because whether we like it or not, the NLC is becoming a toothless dog barking. And one thing with anything that don't have a teeth is you might end up just swallowing rather than chewing, and eventually you will swallow what will be too big for you, and it will just hook you there, and the rest of the story is whatever might be for you at the end of the day. And the NLC is beginning to be perceived that way. It's almost like they do not know the lines of actions that they're supposed to take regarding certain issue, which still take me back to where I stand concerning choosing your battles. And even when you decide to choose a battle, how do you fight that battle? It also determines whether you'll be victorious at the end of the day or not. What happened to a committee being set up first to look into the matters? This is a committee from the federal government and the NLC simultaneously sitting down to look at it and say, okay, you know what, this, we're going to dialogue and all of that. In the first place, we know that there won't even be anything concrete at the end of the day. Why? Because this is the federal government approval of the telecommunications to increase their tariff by 50%. Let's not forget that these telcos did not just single-handedly take this decision without the approval of the federal government in it. In fact, we've talked about this over and over, how it could be 100%, but it is at 50% and all of that. So rather than setting up a committee and all of that, you should decide to just go and attack and face rather the real problem that is out there. That is going to be the emphasis continually, because it doesn't matter, even if it is a 10% increase today, it is 50% higher than what we were before. You understand? Even if it is 30% increase, it's going to be 100% higher than where we started in regarding tariff of telecommunications in this country. So what are we trying to say here is that when the NLC want to pick a battle, they should choose one wisely. And it is the policies that are out there that are depending. You refuse to stand your faith. For example, fuel subsidy was removed completely, believed to be 100%. And you refuse to stand your ground day and night from the federal government and say, you know what, you should take this back. Nigerians do not agree. We will not accept it. We will go for a year strike and probably be on a strike by now, until we have an administration that listens to you. You did not. Do you think that a 50% tariff hike, the federal government will bend their backs? This is the question. If the federal government can stand their ground on subsidy removal, on floating the currency, and obviously we are seeing that the best we've seen so far, Sele, which we read on the paper today, was January closing at 1,475 or thereabout. That is the best we've seen, and it's still the worst ever in the case of how much the dollar was before it was floated and all of that. Is not good. We can just be grateful that, well, it's less than 1,600. But we are still having our currency at a very high depreciation value as against the dollar. So even if we are celebrating 100 naira decrease, 150 naira decrease, it's not good enough, because we need to see more than that. Until we see our dollar going below 1,000 naira, our naira going below 1,000 as against the dollar, then before we can, we can even sit down and say, okay, yes, kudos to the federal government and all of that. Why are you not going back on that? Because there are certain promises that the president made to you. He said, you know what, fuel pump price will never go above 700 naira. And where are we now with the fuel pump price? And it's for this same reason these telecommunications are coming out to tell you that we are increasing our tariff, and where the federal government will permit them, because they know that the cost of production is high. Why are you not taking protests for pharmaceuticals that are being imported into the country? It's the same thing. These are all consumable products. Either way we choose them. Is it because they never announced? You just went to the pharmacy
and discovered that the price
the one time 3,000 antibiotics you were taking is now 9,000. Is it because there was no prior notice to it? But we are having over 200% increase on certain products out there. We can even talk about the food that we eat. You did not take up the road. You did not set up a committee. You did not do anything, and it's for tariff. What about electricity that we're talking about? The whole banding thing that is confusing, that is exploiting certain people and left, right, center. You are not setting up committee. You are not saying you will go on a strike. You are not taking the needful step according to the things that are affecting dearly the lives of Nigerians as it is. And when it comes to tariff hike, you're coming out quickly without thinking, saying fought. And it's not surprising that there is no strike, and it's not surprising that they are taking the first step to be the last, and now it looks like they don't know what they are saying. And whether you like it or not, the federal government is looking at you, and they know you don't have that much power to tell them what they do, because of even the way you are taking the way you are handling the issues that you're supposed to be. as an organization, as a Congress that is supposed to be the voice for Nigerians when the government is not taking, you have power more than every other. The Serap can only sue, CSOs can only sue, every other body can only sue and all of that, but you are the only one that can wake up and say, you know what, we will not go to work if you do not turn. And if you play your cards well and you do well, the federal government will listen to you. That is the kind of power you do have as an organization. But what are you doing with it? You are playing with it. As far as I'm concerned, the NLC is playing with it. They are very political. They have sold out. They have been bought. And until they restore their glory, I believe Nigerians are losing faith in them. And even the government is looking at them and knowing that as long as is with this administration of Joe Ajaero and CFOs or C4,
funny enough, I did not see the TUC part of it, you know, because they are the trade union, so it's more like Ajaero is speaking on behalf of NLC.
And the trade union could even speak the most because businesses are also
getting
affected because what you consume. So that as an individual, we have business that are consuming times 100 when it comes to telecommunication and all of that for them to be able to succeed. So what are we saying here is that they are becoming silent, and it looks like we are beginning to lose this war against the federal government.
So let's just give up.
It feels that way because the people who should try to win this for us are not playing their cards well, and therefore they are leaving Nigerians at the mercy of whatsoever the government decides to do.
Well, I think at this point, all we just have to do is to wait for the next 2 weeks, see what this committee will come up with, even though I do not know if they're going to do anything relevant regarding this, because one thing I know about the federal government is once they have come up with something, it's very, very difficult for them to actually go back on their words.
Yeah.
The tendency for them to maintain it or maybe slightly reduce it, maybe they'll say 48%,
Maybe.
you know, just slightly so that you feel that, okay, we did something. But we know that the telcos has already given Nigerians ample time that by March, initially it was supposed to be by February that the increase was going to take effect, but they have shifted it now to March. So Nigeria should just have an open mind and then just wait for whatever is going to be the outcome of the meeting and then whatever the federal government is going to take. Now, we already touched a little concerning, still talking about increase, where we're saying that the presidential aide has actually come out to talk about the issue of electricity, which we already started touching a little from when we were talking about increase. And we're saying here that the federal government pays over 200 billion naira monthly as subsidy. And then I think recently we saw that there's going to be an increase of about 65% again for electricity tariff. And you know, the presidential aide came out to actually give clarity regarding that, where she stated the fact that, you know what, yes, the federal government is paying over 200 billion naira as subsidy monthly, but we are seeing that it's only about 25% of the rich people in Nigerians actually benefiting from it. And you started talking about the fact that we have all of these bans, and then to some extent, you can't even really help it because it's confusing. Number one. Secondly, the fact that you don't even know, you can actually be in band A and your neighbor is in band C, and you wonder how did, you know, the telcos or even the electricity company actually categorize it. My house, for example, I mean, all of a sudden we noticed that my area are paying band C, or is it band B, and then we are paying band A, and of course you know what that means, that for the unit you're going to purchase is quite different from what other time. It's the same light, so when everybody doesn't have light, we don't have light. So such things like this, and you just cannot help but wonder, how did the federal government come up with this? Despite the fact that you are paying this amount, but Nigerians are still paying for it. It's more like saying fuel subsidy is gone, but it's not gone, because this is what we're seeing again in the electricity, where there's an increase, but yet the federal government claims to be paying subsidy. So how is Nigerians, or how am I going to even put this whole thing? Because it's quite confusing when you look at it, that the government pays subsidy, but Nigerians are still paying higher for electricity for which they don't even see. We saw last week where we're looking at some of the amount that's going to be released by World Bank, African Development Bank, some of the loans that the government are able to acquire to, supply lights to 500 households, supply lights to about 2 million households and all of that. So these are quite things that I think Nigeria need clarity. It shouldn't be like the fuel subsidy where this is technically removed, and then you really can't know what is technically and physically, and all of this English that sometimes the government tends to use to confuse Nigerians regarding matters like this.
So the corruption in Nigeria is very strategic, diplomatic, is organized, is whatever form of its peak that you can use to describe, that is where we are when it comes to subsidy corruption in this country. And it's the same for subsidy removal, and it's the same for electricity tariff subsidy and all of that. And then we saw that when even Wale Edun came out and he's saying, you know what, we are not going to do a public hearing concerning the financial report from the NNPCL. And even when Mele Kyari was going to present it to our lawmakers, to the House or the National Assembly, and ahead of 2025 budget planning and all of that, well, when it came to that of the NNPCL, like, well, we want it to be closed door. Nigerians don't need to know. Nigerians have never known how much was fuel subsidy paid in the first place and how much was taken out. The terms here are technically gone and all of that. It's the same thing with tariff, because tomorrow we heard there's this backlog of debt left, right, center. We're seeing that playing out when it comes to our oil and gas sector. Now we're beginning to see the same thing when it comes to electricity tariff in this country. And the question to the Nigerian government is, what are we doing? Where are we? Where do we start as a country? Because Nigerians are not finding it easy. So like when it comes to electricity, you've just talked about what you are going when it comes to electricity consumption in your own area concerning the whole banding issue. And I can talk about the peculiar issues we have where I am and how we are consuming electricity and how it has not been a funny thing in my own household and all of that. And why are Nigerians, why is the government subduing its people to this kind of hardship and impoverishment? Because by the time you are spending this much, Sele, on electricity, on energy that you're consuming, be it in whatever form, water, electricity, petroleum, and all of that, by the time you spend this money, we're not even talking about food, Sele. We are talking about these basic things that are not even the number one in the hierarchy of the most important things. If you are spending this much, then whether we like it or not, we have a system that is bent on impoverishing the country and its citizens, because it doesn't matter if you are being paid 77,000 naira as minimum wage. It does not matter. At the end of the day, what are you spending as a country as compared to what you are receiving as your minimum wage? And at the end of the day, you find out that everybody is struggling to make ends meet at the end of the day. And then it is a sad one and even a difficult one for us, because as we're sitting down here, both you and I are affected by all of these policies and decisions. And we can't wrap our head, because just like every other Nigerian out there, we want answers to what is the government saying. If you are still paying electricity tariff, then why is our tariff and units going high every day and there's no value for our money? If you are not, what have you saved so far? What is the way, what is the future concerning electricity in this country? And when will we begin to smile regarding certain situations? Because the story is different as at the year 2024, is that the government is no longer paying electricity subsidy, and that is why they are grouping the whole band thing for different charges, different payment, which is even exploitative by nature. And well, Nigerians accepted it, and still yet the story today is that you have paid 200 billion naira when it comes to subsidy. How much were you paying before? How much did you stop paying? And why are you still paying this sum of money when it comes to electricity tariff. We don't get answers from the government when we ask these questions. But I think our conversations let them know that we have our our eyes wide open and our ears listening and waiting to see every move, because in as much as it looks like we do not know the inner workings of whatsoever is coming, whatever is going on financially as a country, Nigerians need answer, and it's just a matter of time before Nigerians take drastic actions, which people like the NLC are failing us. But I think Nigerians too can take certain actions concerning what they want to see and what they demand from the government. Is not too late. There are so many ways. We've talked about so many ways that Nigerians can say enough is enough. And I am looking forward to the nearest future to see if Nigerians have learned their lesson. So far, so good from this current administration.
Well, I think it's just like you said. All we have to do is just keep asking the questions. And we are hoping that the relevant authorities will actually take notice of all of these questions and hopefully give answers to Nigerians, because we're just more like a mouthpiece to Nigerians to let the government know that, you know what, these are the things that Nigerians are not happy about, and whether we like it or not, we cannot rule out that one of the reasons why even these telcos want to increase their prices because of even the power as well. One of which the many, because how much will you spend to buy diesel because you need to run your business, and all of that. Manufacturers keep complaining. So when we look at this, when you want to look at a particular problem, you just realize that it's linked to many other things. You cannot just rule out, okay, it's just electricity. But whether you like it or not, even if you could afford to buy food, you definitely need the electricity. You need that cook if there isn't an electric cooker, or to either put it in the fridge. So you need the electricity, the power in one way or the other. So we hope that if the government really feel that it's actually the elites that are enjoying this, then they should come out and look for a way that, you know what, even the poor people can be able to afford it. Because imagine living in an area where it's band A, and then all you can afford is to buy a unit for 2,000 naira. How long does this unit last for you, and all of that? So we hope that the government will really, really take all of this notices of all of these issues, and then actually rectify the problem. And then wherever corruption is eating place, they should cover the loopholes, because it's really leaking and it's getting out of control. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us with me. As well, thank you to our viewers and every other person who made this program a success. We look forward again to doing this together tomorrow. Please do have a lovely day.